Welcome back to our color drawing series. In the previous video, we learned how to do some basic techniques using colored pencil. In this video, we're going to be continuing learning basic techniques with colored pencil. And don't worry, in the next video, we will be taking a bigger step with our exercises and colored pencils, but it is important to learn all of this. So in the previous video, we learned how to get some basic coverage, how to apply certain hand pressures for different saturations, how to blend, and how to use different value gradients. This time, we're going to learn what it's like to add a little bit of color into the mix and see how blending works then and the difference between a value shift and a hue shift. Without further ado, let's begin. Alright, so let's wrap up these basic exercises. If you saw the previous video, then this setup looks familiar. But seeing how we're focusing on like mixing color, I took the liberty of already going and starting and setting up based on what you need to see. I'm not going to hold you and you watch me just set this thing up. There's no purpose. Everything that you need to see, you will see in this video. So we're going to start up top, and before I mentioned that there's a difference between a hue shift and a value shift. And we're going to use the color that commonly comes into this problem, because I hear people say a lot like they want a light green or a dark green. So I'm going to show you the difference between a value shift and hue shift. This is our constant. This green is going to stay normal. This is our core hue right here. Now, when people say light green, immediately, they jump to white because that lightens it. You want a tint of green. I say, okay, but what I find is some people do want that, and I'm just gonna burnish this with the white. But with green, adding white tends to make it look more minty. So that's the light green with white. And actually that turns out a lot better than most do. So you actually might want that. Usually when you add white, it's green, makes it like a mint green. People don't really want that, but we understand adding white, that's how you lighten colors. But there's also what's called a hue shift, in which you use another hue to lighten it rather than just using white. So to lighten green, you would use yellow. Yellow and blue makes green. Yellow is the warmer and lighter color. So now let's see the difference in adding yellow instead of white. You can also use like a cream color if you have an expanded palette of color pencils. And there you go, you have that option. You can either have the green with the white, or you have the green with yellow. A lot of people usually when they say they want the light green, they mean like more of the yellow green, a lime green. And that's used by adding yellow. But if you want the like paler, lighter, mintier money green, then add white. This is just used to show, there's a difference, and depending on what you use, that's how you can determine like the exact color you want. But what about darkening? The same applies. You can darken with either black, or you can darken with, in this case, green. We're going to use like either a darker green or a blue. I chose darker green. So remember what I said with color pencils, you want to get your darks down first. And let's start with the green here. And then you have the differences in darkening. Remember, this is our constant. This is the green that we start off with. When darkening that green, you can either use a darker green or, in another case, a blue or a black. And you see how they look totally different. And it's not a right or wrong way. It's just what you mean by darken. Which one do you actually want? So we've seen that, and I used like the burnish method to get that, but you don't always have to burnish. So let's switch to orange. And we're going to use yellow. We're going to use the hue shift of like warming up. In orange, let's say this orange is too red for you. You want to lighten it up, but you don't want to use white because it's going to like just make it look pale. You want it to be more of like a yellow orange. You can just layer that. and it will have the same effect. And there you go, warmed up the orange, you lightened it, and you didn't have to like go in and burnish. I realized I should have probably made a constant for orange so we have like the same orange, but for now I haven't done these two, so you can see the difference. But now let's burnish this orange because I just love it, and you can like see side by side the difference. You can see the burnishing made it smoother, more full, more opaque. But also like be wary of burnishing because the color that you're using to burnish can tend to dominate. You can see this is much more yellow, much brighter than just layering. When you layer, you have more control of like the degree of yellow you want to add. If you want to add more, you can just go with layers. When you're burnishing, it's kind of just at the mercy, and you're gonna have to go back and forth with like adding orange if you wanted to get it back. But now let's take a quick moment about like dulling, and we're going to split this in half so you can see the difference. When you don't want a color to be as intense, as saturated, let's add some more orange to this because this is going to be tricky. You use the complementary color. Now, if you remember your color wheel, complementary color is the color that's the hue that's opposite on that wheel. So for red it's green, for yellow it's violet, and for orange that would be blue. So you can bring in the blue. And the reason I say this is tricky is because you really want to layer this. But I can still show you like burnishing. Basically using complementary colors makes everything like a dull, neutral, or muddy brown. And depending on the degree, and there you go. You see it's still orange-ish, but it's been dulled because you use this complement to pull that saturation out. Like I say, you can like more easily do this with browns, but if you don't have that at your disposal, or if you just want to practice, that's the method you really want to go with. Now down to our gradients, I'm going to show you like mixing color in action. We all know, like, of course, red and yellow make orange, blue and yellow makes green. But sometimes like people don't really see that in action. And let's say you don't have an orange, which I mean you should always usually have an orange. But let's say you don't. Your orange ran out, but you need orange. It's important to know like how to mix these things. So we have our red gradient, we're gonna make orange. Grab our yellow. And there you go. That easy. We made an orange gradient, a very warm gradient. Is it like a perfect orange like this? No. I mean, you're obviously going to want an orange color pencil, but it's to show you that you can mix colors, so you can build it. It's not like red and orange make yellow in theory. It's very practical. You can easily mix it. So we're going to do the same. Yeah, this. We're going to do the same, making green from this blue. So we're going to have our yellow. There you go, that easy. You made a gradient of green from blue and yellow. But let's say you already know you want green and you have green, but you don't know which shade, which tint, a warm green, a cool green. You just want to know what type of green you want. So we're going in this gradient, our second green gradient, I'm going to grab the dark green. Well, actually, let's use real colors. Official terms. Our grass green and our apple green. Now that one can be helpful. Let's say you're making grass and you want different mixtures to push, pull, and all of that. You can make a gradient of like 2 different versions of the same color. It will still work just as fine. Actually, you're probably going to want to do that to give it some life. And even if it's like too similar, that's when you add the extra. Add some yellow in there. But what about 2 colors? Now there's a reason I didn't continue the mixture of the secondary colors. And that's because making violet or purple is a pain. You have to have a particular blue, a particular red, and I did not want to experiment with all of that. And plus, I'm pretty sure you get the picture. So let's say you have 2 colors that you just want to use, or you see from your reference, it's clearly these 2 colors collide, and you want to know how to mix it. This is why you always do a color test. So let's do 2 colors that I usually pair together. We're going to do pink and purple. And yes, I expanded to my 48 pack, and I actually use purple and not violet. So we're gonna grab our blush pink and we're gonna go into this purple. And there you go, you have a pink purple gradient, depending on what you want to do. It doesn't have to be like, oh, just primaries and secondaries. Certain colors gel well, and this is actually how you can figure out if certain colors do gel well. Because if you make a gradient and it looks ugly, it doesn't go, and you know not to put those 2 colors together. I think I've proven my point with most of these, so as a bonus, I'm gonna show you a yellow gradient, 2 yellow gradients. And why I always say, like for the yellows and some, depending on your taste, orange, you don't want to use black to shade it. I learned this in painting class when I tried to use black, and it just turned to this ugly green color. And I'm like, this is not what I want. And that's how I learned to use brown. So first we're gonna show you what happens when you use black. Now when you say dark yellow, I imagine like most people aren't thinking that. It's not what comes to mind. Which is why the trick is to use brown. So let's see the difference. Now when people usually want to use like shades of yellow, like let's say you're making a painting, you got some wood or something like that, that's usually what people are going for. Not this ill. So that concludes like our exercises, our basic exercises. We've learned like the difference between value shifts, hue shifts, the same with like lights and darks. Learn how to use hue shifts in layers, burnishing, how to dull certain colors using its complement, using gradients to get colors that we don't necessarily have, using gradients to see just the different shades, different hues we can get of the same color. Use gradient to do a test of colors that we don't know if they will mix well or not, or to what degree, and the different gradients of yellow. That concludes this video. I'll see you in the next one. We'll have a more complex exercise.